What if the instructions you've been following so perfectly were never meant for you? What if the reason you feel stuck isn't that you haven't done enough, but that everything you've done has been pulling you further from the one thing that actually matters? There's a verse, thousands of years old, that explains exactly why the most disciplined person in the room can also be the most lost. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why it was written for you. You wake up early, you do the thing, you journal, you meditate, or at least you sit there with your eyes closed for 10 minutes because someone told you it would change your life. You track your habits, you've read the books, you've watched the videos, you've built the morning routine, the evening routine, the weekly review. And from the outside, you look like someone who has it together. But here's what nobody sees. You're lying in bed on a Sunday afternoon, staring at the ceiling, and this strange hollow feeling creeps in. Not sadness exactly, not anxiety, something worse, emptiness. Like you've assembled every piece of a 1,000-piece puzzle, only to realize it's a picture of someone else's life. You've done everything right, and you've never felt more wrong. If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because this isn't a motivation video, this is a diagnosis. His name was Rohan, 29, product manager at a fast-growing tech startup in Bangalore, the kind of guy whose Notion dashboard had a Notion dashboard. He woke up at 5:15 every morning, cold shower, 12 minutes of guided meditation, bulletproof coffee, 30 minutes of deep work before the first meeting, gym at lunch, protein-tracked meals, evening journaling with a gratitude prompt, lights out by 10:30. His apartment was minimal and intentional. A single bookshelf lined with titles like Atomic Habits, Deep Work, The 4-Hour Work Week. His phone screen time was under 40 minutes a day. His manager called him the most reliable person on the team. But one Tuesday morning, something broke. He was sitting on his meditation cushion, timer set, eyes closed, breath steady, and a thought cut through the silence like a crack in glass. Why am I doing this? Not philosophically, not poetically, practically. Why this routine? Why this job? Why this life that looked so perfectly assembled but felt like wearing a suit 3 sizes too small? He opened his eyes. The timer still had 6 minutes left. He stared at the wall, and for the first time in years, Rohan didn't finish the routine. He just sat there, unoptimized, unproductive, and terrified. That weekend, Rohan drove 4 hours to his grandmother's house in Mysore. It was her 80th birthday, and the whole family had gathered. Cousins, aunts, uncles, the usual beautiful chaos of an Indian household. But Rohan was quiet. He sat in the corner of the living room, scrolling through nothing, performing presence while being completely absent. His grandmother, Nani, as everyone called her, noticed. She always noticed. Late that night, after the celebrations had wound down and the house had gone still, she found him sitting alone on the veranda, staring at the garden. She sat beside him, no preamble, no small talk. She just said, "You look like a man who has followed every map and still doesn't know where he is." Rohan laughed, but it came out hollow. "Nani, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I wake up early, I work hard, I eat right, I save money, I read, I plan. But I feel nothing, like I'm running a program someone else wrote." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that stopped him cold. "Rohan, let me tell you something. There is a difference between a life that looks intelligent and a life that is lived with intelligence." She leaned back in her chair. "You have been doing what the world told you would work. Wake up early, success. Meditate, peace. Track your habits, discipline. And none of it is wrong, but you have been collecting flowers without ever planting a garden. You've been performing rituals without understanding the reason behind a single one of them. All your routines, all your systems, all your optimizations, they are borrowed instructions, borrowed from books, borrowed from strangers on the internet. You followed them perfectly, but you never once stopped to ask, what is my purpose in doing this? What am I actually working toward? Not a goal on a spreadsheet, not a promotion. I mean, why are you here? Rohan felt something tighten in his chest. She continued, her voice dropping low. There is wisdom, ancient wisdom, that says the person whose mind is scattered across 100 desires, 100 techniques, 100 borrowed formulas, that person can never find stillness. Their intelligence has too many branches, going in every direction, rooted in nothing. But the one who acts with a single clear understanding of why, even a small step on that path protects them from the greatest fear of all, the fear of a wasted life. Rohan's eyes stung. He hadn't cried in years. Productivity culture doesn't schedule time for tears. Nani, he whispered, how do I find that? The why? She smiled. You stop following instructions and you start listening. Now hear the original Sanskrit. These are the words Lord Krishna spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Words that cut through confusion like a blade through fog. Listen to them not just with your mind, but with something deeper. Esha te abhihita sankhe buddhir yoge tvimam shranu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyase neha bhikram nashoste pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat vyavasayatmika buddhireke hakurunandan bahushakha hyanantascha buddhayo avyavasayinam yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti vipaschitah vedvadartah partha nanyadastiti vadina कामात्मनः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फल प्रदाम क्रिया विशेष बहुलाम भोगेश्वर्य गतिम प्रति भोगेश्वर्य प्रसक्तानाम तया पहरुत चेतसाम व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वंद्वो नित्य सत्वस्थो निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान यावानर्थ उद्पाने सर्वतः संप्लुतोदके तावान सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः. Here is what these sacred words mean. Krishna tells Arjuna, so far I have given you the wisdom of understanding, of seeing reality as it is. Now listen to the wisdom of action, of yoga. When you act with this intelligence, Partha, you will break free from the chains of karma. On this path, no effort is ever wasted. No step is ever lost. Even the smallest act done with true understanding protects you from the greatest danger, the danger of living without meaning. The resolute mind is single-pointed, focused and clear, but the minds of those who lack resolve, they are endlessly branching, scattered across 1,000 desires, 1,000 directions, never arriving anywhere. There are those who speak flowery words, who cling to the letter of scripture, who declare there is nothing beyond ritual and reward. Driven by desire, obsessed with heaven and pleasure, they perform elaborate ceremonies aimed only at enjoyment and power. Their minds, stolen by these promises can never achieve the focused clarity that leads to true peace. The scriptures deal with the three qualities of material nature. Rise above these three qualities, Arjuna. Free yourself from the pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain, success and failure. Remain anchored in pure being. Let go of the anxiety of acquiring and protecting. Be established in the self. And then this devastating metaphor. To the one who has realized the truth, all scriptures are of as much use as a small well when there is a flood of water on every side. In other words, when you find the ocean within, you don't need to keep digging wells. Now let me take you back to the battlefield, back to the moment these words were first spoken. Arjun was not a beginner. He was the greatest archer of his age. He had trained under the finest masters. He knew every rule of warfare, every code of duty, every scripture by heart. He had followed every instruction perfectly. And yet, there he stood, paralyzed, bow slipping from his hands, knees weak, eyes blurred with tears. Not because he lacked skill, not because he lacked knowledge, but because all the knowledge in the world couldn't answer the one question burning in his chest. Why should I act? He had done everything right. He had followed every rule. And in his moment of greatest crisis, none of it held him up. Sound familiar? Rohan, sitting on his meditation cushion, timer running, doing everything the books told him to do, and feeling nothing. Arjun, standing on the chariot, armed with every weapon, trained in every art, and feeling nothing. The same emptiness, separated by 5,000 years, connected by the same human truth. You can master every technique and still miss the point entirely. You can follow every instruction and never once ask who wrote them or why. That is exactly why Krishna doesn't give Arjun another technique. He doesn't hand him a new weapon or a new mantra or a better strategy. He gives him something far more dangerous. He gives him a reason. Let's go back to Rohan. He didn't quit his job the next morning. He didn't delete his Notion templates or throw away his books. This isn't that kind of story. What he did was quieter and harder. He went back to Bangalore. He sat at his desk on Monday morning, and before opening a single app, before checking a single metric, he took out a blank piece of paper and wrote one question at the top. What would I do today if no one were watching and no one were keeping score? The answer didn't come immediately. It came in fragments over weeks. He started noticing which parts of his routine energized him and which parts he did only because he was afraid of what would happen if he stopped. He realized his meditation practice wasn't about peace, it was about control. His gym routine wasn't about health, it was about being seen. His journaling wasn't reflection, it was performance, even for an audience of one. Slowly, painfully, he began to strip away the borrowed layers. Not all at once. Some mornings he still woke up at 5:15 out of habit. But now, when he sat in silence, he wasn't running a program, he was listening. He started a small design project on the side, something he'd always been curious about but had never optimized time for. It didn't fit his 5-year plan. It didn't improve his metrics. But when he worked on it, something in his chest opened up, something that had been closed for years. He called his Nani 3 weeks later. I think I understand now, he said. I was building someone else's temple, and praying to someone else's God. She laughed softly. Now you are beginning, beta, not finishing, beginning. Now let me ask you something honestly. See if any of this lands. You follow routines religiously, but can't explain what they're actually building toward. Every self-help book feels true while you're reading it, and completely hollow by the next morning. Your discipline looks impressive from the outside, but inside it feels more like a cage than freedom. The thought, "What's the point of all this?" visits you more often than you'd ever admit out loud. If even one of those hit home, these verses weren't just meant for Arjuna, they were meant for you. Here is your Gita journal question for today. If you stripped away every habit, every routine, every goal that someone else convinced you was important, what is the one thing you would still do? Not because it's productive, not because it's optimized, but because it makes you feel alive. Write it down in the comments, not for me, for you. Because sometimes the act of putting truth into words is the first step toward actually living it. And remember this, the well was never the problem. You just forgot you were standing beside an ocean.